Card, it's been weird with Michigan basketball this summer because I've talked about this theme with you when they put out content where some of the splashiest guys, the guys who are presumed to be the most important pieces on this roster, are not often the most talked about, not the most front and center with this team. They've really kind of put their depth on display more than they've really showcased a Yaxel Lendeborg or an Elliot Cadeau, two guys that I think will be very important to where this team goes. Well, Elliot Cadeau was the subject of a new video that was dropped from the Michigan men's basketball official Twitter account. And Ed Kingerski, shout out to him, who is a host and a producer for the University of Michigan sports television programs, interviewed Elliot Cadeau and got to know him a little bit and started talking some expectations for Elliot. How did he get to Michigan? What was appealing for him to leave North Carolina to play for Dusty May? And it really is the first time this summer, I think, that Cadeau has sort of been singled out and we've put a spotlight on him. I want to say before we get into some things Elliot Cadeau said here, I think he's the most important player on Michigan. Like, ultimately, Yaxel might decide the team's ceiling, but Elliot Cadeau, I think, decides the team's floor. Because if Elliot Cadeau is struggling really at all, this team doesn't have really any other option at point guard. They have built this roster with a genuine belief that Elliot Cadeau is going to be awesome at Michigan, and there just isn't that much of a plan B if that doesn't happen. Well, Elliot himself spoke and talked about how he thinks the system's going to be perfect for him, how that he gets to play fast in a Dusty May offense. But he had a quote here, Cart, that caught my attention. Elliot said, quote, "I think we have the most talented roster in the country." End quote. Are you okay with Elliot Cadeau saying this, and what are your thoughts?
I mean, it was classic summer on the point guard of the team talk. I do think we have the most talented team. I think there certainly are talented players on this team. I think to your point, you have pointed out that Michigan does have depth on this team, and the level of talent that they have. There's some other rosters I think I would take over this Michigan roster, but I think this is something you expect your starting point guard who has some confidence about him to say. It doesn't catch me off guard. I mean, I think we can go along some of the other players across the country who have kind of made this same statement about their team or their roster if they think they're really good. I think a Purdue player has said that about their roster. I'm sure Kentucky players have said that about their roster. I just think that it's inherently something that players like to use as kind of like a summer describe the team buzzword when they do actually believe in their team.
Yeah, I think there have been a lot of teams that have had players say this. There is a different semantic way to view this than some other ones that we've talked about on the channel. I mean, we've heard players flatly say, "I think we're the best team in the country. Like, I think we should win the national title," things of that nature. I will point out having the most talented roster is different than being the best team. And look, I do not think Michigan has the most talented roster in the country. You and I made a list of this a week ago, and I think, were ninth on the list. So they're in the general ballpark of where I won't hate someone from a top 10 talented roster team saying this. You believe your players are really good. That's a good sign. I do think Michigan has an argument for being the deepest team in the country. I've made mention of this a bunch, but like Michigan's ninth guy on paper is a McDonald's All-American. That's a very talented group. I think they get more talented the deeper you go to the bench than they do at the top, because I think they really only have one All-American candidate, really only one All-Big Ten candidate, and then a bunch of really good, solid players after that. But like, there are people who believe Roddy Gale's the second best player on this team. If Roddy Gale's the second best player on this team, you ain't the most talented roster in the country. So I'm totally fine debunking this on paper. Um, I will point out, people know I'm a Cadeau skeptic, and I still have to come to terms with that being my point guard this year. I will point out that if we did this a year ago, who would have been the team that we said had the most talented roster in the country, Cart?
Did this a year ago, team would have had the most talented roster in the
Go
country.
back to last August, because there was one team that you and I pretty much unanimously agreed was the most talented roster in the country, I think.
I think I deleted that once I deleted our YouTube videos.
Yeah, I think it was Indiana. I think we came on here a year ago talking about, man, Gallo and Mbako and Renew and Miles Rice, what he was at Wash. I mean, what, Cannon Carlisle's your fifth guy?
Mm.
We would have said that a year ago, and I think we were saying it a year ago, and nobody even battered an eyelash at that. So the point is this again, very different thing between having the most talented roster and being the best team. And I'm okay with Michigan talking about how much talent they have. I still have major questions on how this fits. And coincidentally, Elliot Cadeau is the biggest question to how it all fits. How is he going to run this team? Dusty later in this interview, if you listen to the full 2 minute clip of this, they went from talking to Elliot to talking to Dusty. And Dusty said something that was really interesting to me. He said, look, both of the two teams that Elliot Cadeau's played on in college won more with Elliot than they would have without him. That's a pretty pointed statement on what North Carolina is, because let's just be clear, they didn't win a lot last year. So Dusty is banking this season on the fact that Elliot Cadeau was not the problem at North Carolina. And there are people who will point to it and say Elliot Cadeau was part of the problem. I don't know if Dusty May's right or not. Before he signed with Michigan, I certainly would have been in the camp that said Elliot was part of the problem. But I don't know. Any thoughts on Dusty's addition there? That, I mean, Elliot helped them win. He didn't hold them back at all.
Well, I don't know. I guess I just look at it this way, for better or for worse. Why can't like both be true? Like maybe it just wasn't the situation. Hubert wasn't the coach for him. Because I mean, gee, we go back to it. Elliot Cadeau out of high school, when he reclassed and went to North Carolina, like he was dynamic, man. Like he was explosive. The passing was there. Yes, the jumper was a question, and maybe some decision making stuff was a question. But like, there's a player there and a good player there, I do think. And you brought up the Indiana situation. One of the big downfalls of that Indiana team, Michael Woodson was their head coach. One of the downfalls of UNC, Hubert Davis was at the helm. If you're a Dusty May believer, a Dusty May guy, I think it's fair to give the benefit of the doubt that Dusty May will get whatever is the best version out of Ellie Cadeau. I guess we can have a conversation on what the best version looks like, but like, I mean, even myself, I was a massive Elliot Cadeau guy. I'm disappointed on how it unfolded at North Carolina, given what I was able to see from him in high school. But maybe Dusty May is just the person to get it out of Elliott. Maybe, and look, was he the problem at North Carolina? I'm of the belief that he was part of the problem at North Carolina. But I don't think that, I think there's a world where that doesn't carry over to Michigan, and Dusty May just kind of handles that situation correctly, brings
Yeah,
out the best in him.
think that's fair. I think Dusty has deserved the benefit of the doubt. He's basically taken a lot of guards and gotten the best version of themselves out of them. John L. certainly looked better with Michigan than he looked elsewhere. You could argue Elijah Martin looked better at Florida than he did under Dusty, but he was a great player at both institutions. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm open to that. I think it's a big risk. I've said it all along. It's a really big risk. Let me end with this though. The idea of Elliott talking about talented rosters. I do feel like people forget Elliott was on a really good North Carolina team. Like, as much as I want to just be a total skeptic and be like, I'm not a fan of his game at times, they were ninth on KenPom. They were I think, number one overall seed in that tournament, or at least a number one seed, 29-8, on a team that included Harrison Ingram, Cormac Ryan, Armando Bacot, RJ Davis. So there were a lot of great players on that team. Elliott just had to play a role and facilitate. And I mean, it is pretty clear at this point. Elliott Cadeau can take a team to the second weekend and be a part of a team with a lot of talent that wins a lot of games. Do you think this Michigan team is more talented than that North Carolina team?
You talking about last year's team, or are we talking about which team are you
No, the
referring to?
team that won, the team I'm talking about, the number one seed that they went to a Sweet
Oh,
16 with.
that was Armando, Caleb, RJ,
Harrison Ingram.
Harrison.
They didn't have Caleb. It was Harrison Ingram, Cormac Ryan, Armando Bacot, RJ Davis.
Oh, okay. Um,
Elliot Cadeau was the starting point guard. They went 29-8. They made a Sweet 16. They were a one seed in the tournament. 17-3 in the ACC that year.
ACC.
Sure, but
Um,
top 15 offense and defense. Like, my point is, Cadeau's been on a great team. and played a big role on a great team. But that team was hella talented, right? Baker was great, Davis was great, Ingram was great, Cormac Ryan was your fourth best player. So
Yeah, I'll probably take that UNC roster. Maybe at least starting five.
yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
probably.
Do you think Michigan's in the realm of that or no?
I think that I mean obviously Yaxel's an all-American level player, so like there's the Armando the Yaxel thing. Um, I guess just when you get to like what the Wings did, like Harrison Ingram and Cormac, I'm probably taking that over Namari and uh Roddy Gale. But maybe better at the center position. I don't. I'd probably take the UNC roster, but maybe like Yaxel and the depth. I think maybe looking at it big picture as a whole, you might take a role with Michigan because I mean, was that UNC team? Was that like God? It seems like so long ago. Was that like Leaky Black off the bench?
No, you're mixing years with the year before it. They had Jalen Withers, Jalen Washington, Seth Trimble off the bench, Paxton Wojcik.
Yeah. See, I mean, I'm probably taking Michigan's bench.
Yeah, that Carolina team was basically five players.
Yeah.
They were very good players and they were great.
Right.
But yeah, all right, interesting, interesting. I feel like I got out of this without slandering my point guard too much, and that's a win for me.
That feels good, right?